Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah. I am super excited. My guest, Aneicia Pitts, is here, and she is going to tell you all about who she is, what she does, and how she can help you. Aneicia, take it away.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Tammy. My name is Aneicia Pitts. I am a light worker, Reiki healer, spiritual coach. And what I do is actually mentor individuals who are suffering in darkness, who wants to get back into the light. I also perform energy scans, Reiki healing sessions that allow people to unblock and remove imbalances in their chakras to get them better aligned with their energy, to unlock their true potential. Currently, as of right now, I'm partnering with a local foster agency in Houston, Texas, to mentor children in juvenile justice and in the foster care system so that way we can get them out of that foster care prison to pipeline system to honestly set them up for success. So I'm really looking forward to that this year. Be on the lookout for some beautiful things on my channel. And thank you again for having me.
I am just, I love that. So tell me, how did you get started in that?
So I actually always worked in as a teacher. I was always teaching. Even when I worked in as a CNA, I started work as a CNA as a 21, 22-year-old woman. And even as a CNA, I was teaching some of the individuals, the people in the nursing home there, just bringing them back to spirit, speaking life back into them because they felt like they were literally at the tail end of their road, just being in the nursing home. Um, Eventually shifted out of the nursing home, getting into a teaching role to where I actually taught the adult high school program. And I was also speaking life into those individuals, being a mentor, being a spiritual guide, if you will, as to how you would need to go about and direct your life and not necessarily direct your life, but allowing them to know that it's not where you start, it's how you finish. So it doesn't matter what it is that you've done, you still have the choice, even if you feel like you are on your last leg, to give yourself over to righteousness. And that's what I truly, truly believe. We all have the opportunity to give ourselves over to righteousness if that's something that we choose to do, whether it's on the tail end of our life physically, whether it's the middle part of our life or we're just beginning, we always have the choice. But I got into that very early in life. I would say early 20s, 2021, no later than 22.
And so, what inspired you to go down that road?
What inspired me to go down that road is like I felt like it was always in me, honestly. I didn't really feel like inspiration was really drawn. I felt like I always had like bone or a feeling that I could not resist for helping people and pouring into people, being an example for an individual to show them like, hey, you can start from here and still, transcend and transmute your energy into something far more greater than you could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
I've always felt like it was something that was just placed inside of me to do. Even as a young child, my great grandmother used to call me Grandma Nini, to where I used to act like a grandma, like literally just speaking wisdom and speaking life into people. Basically saying that I'm an old soul, but I feel like it's always kind of like been there, if that makes sense.
It does. So were you raised like in traditional religion or?
Yeah, so I was raised Baptist. My mother had me at 15, and my dad was unfortunately incarcerated until I was about 12, 11, 12. So I didn't meet him until around that time. But I was raised Baptist. We had a pretty big family. We was always at my great grandmother's house in, Acres Home. And that's pretty much where we grew up. We grew up in church, but life sometimes expands your consciousness. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? So I wouldn't say that I'm a religious person. I would say I'm spiritual. I'm a spiritual
Yes.
being having a human experience.
Yes.
And I'm creating my life according to that experience.
Yes, that's so powerful. We share that experience because I same. Like my grandmother was a pastor, and so we
Mine too, yeah.
read the Bible, and she was Pentecostal, and so we went to church all the time, and Matter of fact, when I was 17, I said to myself and I said to God, I said, I got church in a file. I'm sure if you go pick a day and pull the
Hmm.
file out, you'll find that I was in there. So
Uh,
I'm done.
yeah.
But I wasn't, that's what I said at 17. But yeah, so those experiences, and when you started opening up,
Hmm.
because I always say that it's an awakening, but it's like an opening up to the big God,
Yeah.
not the little one that can't do nothing. So what was that like for you?
Honestly, it was it was peaceful and yet scary at the same time. Um, it was the reason why it was peaceful because it was a love that I honestly cannot express. Sometimes love is not supposed to be translated in words because it's supposed to be also a feeling that
Yes,
you feel wholeheartedly to you. But it was a love that I honestly could not express. When I first created my altar and set my ancestors up on my altar, being able to look at them and speak to them in spirit, and working with my crystals and understanding the energy and the frequencies that I am also putting out into the atmosphere, and knowing what it is that I'm attracting, kind of left me into a space of like having a aha moment. It left me into a space to know that the kingdom of God is actually within you. It's within you. It was scary because honestly, Tammy, I felt like since I was, raised in church, my great grandmother was an evangelist, so she also spoke life. But
yes,
I felt like I was going against what I was raised as. I felt like I was going against my family and tradition.
yes,
Um and it was scary for me to step out on faith and actually get into a different sector that honestly drew me closer, I feel like, to spirit, to source.
yes,
Like me
yes,
being in
yes.
it this way has made a closer connection to God than me doing it another way, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. You are speaking my language. 'Cause that was the thing. It's like a journey, and
Yeah.
and when you get on it, it's like, oh my God, because I was talking, the other young lady and I were talking, and I said, it was so embedded in me that, all these things that we do, they said was of the devil. They said,
Yeah.
going to hell, reading the tarot, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm reading cards. And then when I first popped out on the scene, this was probably, I think about 5 years ago now, and I was reading cards and stuff because, it's what you do in the beginning, right? So
Hmm.
read cards and stuff, and I would have people on my YouTube channel and on even sometime on Facebook
Hmm.
me, oh, you going to hell? You need to turn to Jesus. And I'd be like, gee, I'm already with Jesus. Jesus is my man.
Yeah.
Jesus is my healing guide. I bring Jesus into every session that I have.
And that's interesting that you bring that up because I literally am in a space where I have to be in introspection. So to bring up the tarot cards, I would say I'm in hermit mode right now, strong hermit mode. But
Well,
like
thank you for
when
coming out.
you are so welcome. When people don't know anything differently, or when they are afraid to actually, because I really feel like getting to know God is through a spiritual experience. And
Yes,
that spiritual experience is the spiritual experience that you create with you for you.
yes,
Because when I was meditating, I want to say about a month ago, um, Spirit spoke to me and said, Nini, it is not going to be your relationship with the book, but it's the relationship with the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit dwells in every last one of us. It's not, a religion, it's not a faith, it is the Holy Spirit that lives inside of you. It's
yes,
not the relationship that you have with the book. And Jesus is actually an ascended master who came
yes,
down here to do exactly what he was supposed to do. Now, what are you going to do, as an act of what he was doing to, also spread love, to also operate from unconditional spaces, to also be able to look at another human being and still look at that person through the lens of love as if God was looking at them, because you will never look in the eyes of someone who God does not love. That's what spirit is. Or so when people tell you that, oh, you need to turn back to Jesus, those are honestly some, in my opinion, the people who are furthest away from what God actually is.
That's absolutely. And that's exactly. And it's amazing that you say that because that was exactly what I said. At first, of course it hurt my feelings. I
Hmm.
wasn't ready for all that, because I'm not a person that I don't even hate. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I wasn't ready for that. So I was like, what is this? And so it would just upset me. And after a while, I was like, you know what? These people don't even know me, number one. Number
Hmm.
two, they don't even know God.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why do I give a shit? So I was like, okay, all right, you do you and I'm gonna do me. I said, but the other part is we have been so conditioned in these religions to judge. It's
Hmm.
almost like a judge fest. Think about it. You go in church, if your dress is too short, they throwing you on a cloth, covering you up, covering up your legs, all this kind of stuff, sticking you somewhere in a corner in the back or whatever. And my thing is, you should just be grateful that that person is coming to church.
I know. And this is this is why, like, even with me being spiritual, I still incorporate certain pieces of the Bible because I also honor my ancestors. That's what
Oh,
but
yeah,
you know, there's like
should.
people honestly, that's what all they know how to do is in some aspect of the word is be what they are not. And what I mean by that is that when you are trying to live by someone else's standards. You are being what you are not, because you are not living by your own standards. Again, having a relationship with God is having a relationship with the Holy Spirit, created on the standard of that relationship between you and that spirit, because it is personal to you.
Yes,
So when you come from a space where you have to judge another, you are in fact only judging yourself. You know
yes,
what I mean?
I
you are only in
do.
fact you are only in fact judging yourself. And I understand what you mean by that. Like, this is why um people who are solely just religious, they don't really, I feel like in some aspect of the word, Tammy, they don't really know what a spiritual relationship with God actually, in my opinion, looks like.
They don't. Because the reason why I say that, because I remember I went to church and I raised my children in church and I'm grateful, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because it gave them, some foundation and, they know how to pray and they know how to get in touch with God. And that was the thing that, I was commissioned to do for my children. They all grown
Hmm.
now. But it's like, when you think about it, I lost my whole train of thought where we were going. But when I think about it, it's like, you know, so this is the vision that I got. I was sitting in church one day,
Hmm.
I would go after I got my divorce. I had a lot of issues in the church I was going to that I had been going to for about 8 years. And so I would go in there like this, like a horse with blinders. I go in there, just try to get the word, and then I would dip out. I wouldn't talk to nobody, because I had some, yeah, stuff going on. It's like, okay, I don't feel the love. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But the vision that God gave me was that these people take their burdens in like Santa Claus, with a sack of burdens. They
Hmm.
go up to the altar and they lay it down and then they get on there and they call Jesus and they pray and they ask God to help them and all this stuff and take these burdens and all this stuff. Then they get up and they take their bag back and walk out the church.
I agree.
No change, no transformation. And for me, when I started seeing that, that wasn't acceptable to me because why do I even go and spend my time there if I'm not going to get any transformation or any change? I mean, is God handicapped? Can God just not do anything? Can God just not heal? These are the questions that I had, and I had them from a young child.
Hmm.
I mean, I was young and I started asking those questions, and I would ask them to my grandmother. She would answer them. But I would ask those questions. I'm like, so what is this? I mean, why are we even going here and wasting all this time? I could be home watching football. I don't have to be up in here, for hours and hours and hours. And, No, I mean, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna shout and I'm gonna cry and and I'm gonna worship and all that stuff, and then I'm gonna go home with my same stuff. Hi, what do we?
That's a really interesting way to look at it. But see, the thing is that I, and this is what I believe, um, where the disconnect is when it comes to church, is because the resources and the steps for you to have a transformation is actually missing.
Yeah,
Because, like, again, ultimately, with everything, even the Bible says you have free will. You have free will to change your life. You have free will to transform. You have free will to listen to the God, because I go to a spiritual center, and my spiritual center, my practitioner says that God is not someone who comes down to you. He's someone who speaks through you. Or it's a spirit that speaks through you. So honestly, connecting to God is honestly connecting to yourself. It is connecting to the spirit
absolutely.
that is inside of you, but taking
Yes,
accountability. You're never going to, when you feel like you can put your burdens off on someone else, you know what I'm saying? And pick them back up later or whenever you get ready. You don't want to take a transformation. You don't want to
yeah,
do a transformation because you feel like you can put them down on someone else, when honestly your burdens are for you to carry. They're your experiences to learn from. What is spirit trying to teach you? What are you supposed to be taking back? What are you supposed to be transmuting and transforming? It's an inner issue that people have yet to realize. This is
yeah,
why they're not.
exactly. And but people are comfortable with that because it's conditioning.
Yeah, it is. And
Been
honestly, it
conditioned this
goes back
way.
to what, slavery, and
Right.
even, I don't know, even before then, because I'm still fairly young, but I know, I feel like religion was predicated upon our people, especially to keep them in a space of almost like yes massa,
That's
or
why
keep them
they
in a
did.
space.
That's why they
uh,
wrote the Bible like they did, because
yeah, you know what I'm saying.
it was a book of control and manipulation like that. Honestly, I don't even believe the Bibles that we have now.
Hmm.
I don't even believe that was real. Like, I mean, so much in there they misconstrued and they set it up because there's certain ways that certain attributes that they try to give God that I just don't believe that. I believe it. God is a loving God. What? They try to
Yeah,
give
I
God
believe God is a
attributes
loving
of
God.
man, and
Yeah,
that's a part of it. What I saw.
I agree. I agree with that solely because it's that God, you don't have to fear God to have a connection with God. You know
Yes,
what I'm saying?
yes,
And then, and honestly, it's not, and how I interpret it, it's not. And the Bible, honestly, in my opinion, is in a whole bunch of parables, and just like
yes.
you have to interconnect, like chapters are not in sync. They're
Right.
not, they didn't put it like that because they didn't want you to actually be able to have a flow. And it means one thing here but says something differently completely here. Like, I
Yes.
believe it even in the book of Job, where it says that the devil made a deal with God, or God made the devil came and said that, okay, I'm gonna affect Job, and send
God gave
see
him
if this
Job.
person,
Take my
you know what
servant
I'm saying,
Job. Yeah, yeah.
to see if he's going to actually be, still be faithful and all these other things. I don't feel like God makes deals with the devil.
I
You
don't
know what I'm
even.
saying?
Why?
You know what I'm saying?
Why? The why?
Exactly. To prove that somebody's going to still serve you. I don't feel like God does those type of things. And honestly, in my opinion, I feel like God is also all again within a person. The
Yeah,
darkness that you have to battle, the things that you have to fear, are the things that you have to fear within yourself, knowing what you are capable of,
yeah,
acknowledging the darkness that comes inside of you, knowing that where your faults are. You know what I'm saying? It's not the faults of anyone else, because the battle is never with anyone else. It's always been with you. You're never fighting anyone else out here in this life. It's always been an internal battle. This is why also the kingdom, when you are meditating, is with inside of us. You know what I mean?
I do. I'm telling you, I listen to Reverend Ike a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
I finished my bachelor's in metaphysics.
Congrats.
Thank you. So now I'm working on the master's. I finished the coursework. I just have to do the paper.
Hmm.
So I'm working on the master's now, and my plan is to get my PhD in ancestral healing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Reverend Knight, he talks about that, and he says, he said, he said, y'all trying to pray to some God up in the sky, but God ain't in the sky. God is within you.
Mm-hmm.
And girl, I mean, if you haven't listened, he's amazing. He was way before his time, and in his time, they vilified him. They demonized him.
Wow.
Yeah, because he was speaking metaphysics to help Black people get free. And they talked about him so bad, girl, it was horrible. I remember. But I found him, like I used to listen to him from time to time, but I really kind of got a little deep with him a few years ago, and that was the thing that came. Like he preaches, when you hear him, he preaches and stuff like that, but he's telling us these things.
Mm-hmm.
Know that the kingdom of heaven is within us.
Absolutely.
And it's just amazing when you start listening to that and you hear that, as opposed to all the other garbage that they told us.
Yeah. I I'm just stuck on the fact when you said that they, vilified him, and this is
Yeah.
why um I I feel so emotional for our people when it comes to us living in a space to where we honestly are, because I feel like Black people live in a space where they are highly fearful.
Yeah.
They don't really operate from themselves, and as soon as someone or something is completely different from them, they see the world differently. They express their individuality differently. They have a different, spiritual practice. Because it's interesting for Black people, like if you meet a Black person and they are religious, they'll understand if you are Christian and then you are a Muslim. But as soon as you say that you are a spiritual person, they look at you as if you really don't have a spiritual practice, or you don't have a connection with God. But if it's something else, they understand, oh, this person is a Muslim, or this person is a Jew, or this person is, or whatever. But as soon as you say you're spiritual, it's like this whole demonized thing. And I don't understand how our people has allowed other people to literally, like, whitewash material and like give it just back to them, to where they cannot honestly think for themselves, and express themselves, really have a real relationship with the divine. But I'm still praying for my people to wake up, because that is.
Well, and that's what we have to do, because it's brainwashing and manipulation at its finest. You remember, I don't know if you heard about the Willie Lynch thing, right?
Yeah, I have.
So you think about that. So if you turn the people against each other, which they did successfully,
Mm-hmm.
because you think about it, so many times, we just won't come together. It's like, why? So many other cultures do. But that's what it is. And it's so embedded and it's so brainwashed. And it's actually embedded in our DNA. So we have to get, healed, and we have to get, we really need, I mean, everybody needs a spiritual healer, somebody that can
Mm-hmm.
help them transmute that. But we have to. But the other thing is too, is they don't want to open up to it, because they've been so manipulated and they've been so brainwashed. And I don't know if you have ever seen some of those shows where they talk about those cults and how the people are so brainwashed and stuff to believe in all kind of stupid stuff, that when we're watching it, we're like, why would they believe that? That don't make no sense.
Right.
But they've
Right.
been brainwashed and manipulated in that way, that's all they can see. So when you come and I come and I try to bring something else, because I tell them, I had people ask me, well, where do you go to church? And I say, I don't go. I don't have a church to go to. And then they
Mm-hmm.
start, acting real crazy. And I'm like, inviting me and stuff. I said, listen, I'm not looking for one. I'm quite comfortable where I am. God lives in me. I commune with God every single day,
Mm-hmm.
multiple times in the day. Can you say the same? And like, if I found a spiritual church that I'd like to go to, I might pop in there and, check that out. But, I mean, my thing is, if I talk about God, Why do you assume I got to go to somebody's church?
And why do you assume that God has to be,
In a,
because
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And another thing is too, is like when you are spiritual, it's like the first thing that people want to know is like, do you believe in Jesus? You know
yes,
what I'm saying? And it's like that's personal relationship. I don't have to answer your question to, make you feel better about if I believe in Jesus or not, which, of course I do, but it's like, what's the point of you asking me that question? What is that question going to do for you? You see what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know.
you know what I ask him? Do you know him?
Yeah,
I
clearly,
put it right back. Do you know him? I said, yes, I do. Yes, always. What is the problem with that? But we could talk about this all day, but let's move on. We're going to transition into talk about the type of work that you do.
So I am a business analyst. I work for a construction company in analytics. So basically, what I do day to day is in my 9 to 5 is help VPs, contractors train on an application that integrates in their system. But my spiritual work, which I do after work, is Reiki healing, spiritual coaching, and light work. So I like to speak to the darkness of individuals for them to transmute their darkness, but not just transmute their darkness, provide them with the tools and resources to actually do that. Because we can say, okay, you are, you know, you're going through X, you're going through A, or you're battling promiscuity, or you're having a porn addiction, or you're suffering from codependency, insecurity, whatever that may be. We can pinpoint that, but how can we honestly get this individual to conquer those addictions? How
Yes,
can we get this individual to actually fight that addiction within themselves? So this pretty much this path allows me to be able to speak truth to that individual, to allow them to know that whatever addiction that they may be facing, whatever imbalance or blockage they may be facing in their alignment, their chakra alignment, they can honestly fight. The first rule of fighting any addiction is acknowledging that the addiction is there and
yes,
that it is winning. That is, acknowledging that your addiction is there and is winning is not, surrendering to the addiction. It's giving yourself the grace to say, okay, I'm not in a healing space right now. My addiction is in the front, my darkness is in the front. But how can I actually reverse that to where I'm actually operating from the light? So, whether this is meditation, affirmation, energy healing, Reiki healing, energy scans, light work where we do light therapy with our patients, even sometimes just counseling, spiritual counseling. We don't have enough people who honestly, especially our men, unfortunately, they don't feel like they can honestly be vulnerable to even express what it is that they are battling. Sometimes you just need somebody to hear you out and what it is that you are going through to
yeah,
be able to get it off of you. And especially when you are an energy healer, you have to honestly act as a conduit for the energy that you are trying to send to someone else.
yes,
But for that, and this is why I say for any person battling an addiction, darkness, they have to be a willing participant, meaning that they have to also acknowledge that, hey, this is where I'm at in my life, and this is where I want to go. This is where I want to be.
yeah.
But sometimes just being a listening ear. So that's my whole spiel. I do a lot of work. I do a lot of work.
Apparently. So do you have a preference of working with men and or women, or does it matter?
So I don't have a preference. Like honestly, I feel like more men actually watch my channel. I don't know if that's if it's just because of my energy. Even as a mentor, I worked with young men versus the women. However, I also work with women, especially with women who have been through sexual trauma, who have suffered through the hands of promiscuity, sexual violence, and so on and so forth, to get them back to a space to where they can be in alignment with their sacral chakra.
Got you. Yeah, I feel the same way. I have the same, when I looked at my analytics on YouTube, more men,
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
know,
me too.
but I don't care with that. I don't mind working with them, to be honest. Um, I have enough masculine in me to handle it.
What's your zodiac?
Scorpio sun, Pisces moon, and Leo rising.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely for sure. Yeah.
So, I usually I do really good with men. So if I can get them to come through, because you're right. A lot of them,
Hmm.
they're scared, I think. I think they're fearful.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be vulnerable.
Yeah. And that's honestly that's a lot of us too. We don't want to be
Especially
vulnerable with
us,
ourselves.
us.
Yes, we don't want to be vulnerable with ourselves to say, hey, we're going through something and oh, I need help with something.
Yeah.
Especially though our men, they it's as being a mother of two sons, I see how even with my 15-year-old has to like put a certain image up that he has to wear on a day-to-day basis
Yes.
when honestly there is so much strength in your vulnerability. It's not a weakness at all.
Yeah. And I think that it takes them time to learn that. And I'm grateful. My boys, they actually learned that, as they were getting older and stuff like that. And now both of them are in their 30s and they they're good. I mean, they're good. Like
That
I'm
is
so
good. I'm
proud of
praying the
them.
same for mine. I'm praying
Girl,
the same for my two.
I will pray that for you too, because I'm telling you, it was a journey because especially raising young men of color,
Hmm.
that's a whole other gamut,
Yeah,
and now I'm like thinking about my grandson, you know what I mean? So it's like it's a whole other conversation.
that's true. That's absolutely true.
Yeah. So what do you see? So what actually got you on that road where you felt like you wanted to help people, especially with the sexual trauma part?
Well, I honestly used to battle promiscuity myself. I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't want to get too emotional, but I was inappropriately touched very, very early in life. I used to feel like someone put a sex demon on me. Doing
Glad they
things
didn't
that
tell you that in church.
you know what I'm saying? Doing things at a young age that I honestly didn't really have, I felt like didn't have any control over at the time, which left me very emotionally scarred and physically abused. So I actually got into the sex healing and wanting to do sex education and therapy through my own experience, through the trauma that I had experienced just growing up as a young woman. Even being after the trauma, coming into a space to where I still hadn't healed my sacral energy and I was allowing my creative energy to just be all over the place and not really understanding the power that the sacral energy actually produces because it produces life, which not just births a human being, but it births projects and things, businesses and organizations, things that you can honestly benefit from. So I want people to actually get into a space to where they can co-create with spirit. That's where your co-creative energy comes from. It comes from that sacral energy. So yeah, I got into that space from the trauma that I've experienced as a young woman.
That is awesome. That's so powerful. I asked that because so many of us, in this arena, so many of us um are doing things to help people that were in the spaces that we were in.
Hmm.
And it's almost like every time I interview somebody, it's like that. And it's so
Yeah.
amazing to me because I love how you transmuted that for yourself into helping other people because you're uniquely qualified to do it because you've been through it.
Hmm.
So that that
And
is that fascinates me, and I always want to point that out so people can see that just because you may have been in a mess or you may have had, stuff going on, you may have had, things happening in your life that, weren't particularly good at that time, it
hmm.
is something that can help you to help other people,
Right.
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because one thing I asked God one day, I said, why did I have to go through stuff so young? Because I went through a lot really young. I got married at
Hmm.
19. That's crazy. But I got married at 19, and it was like, and everything after that, it's like stuff I was going through in my 20s, people in their 40s and 50s were going through, or people in their 40s and 50s were coming to me and asking me for advice. I was in
Absolutely.
my
Yeah.
20s. I was like, how does that work? So I
Yeah.
asked God one day, I
Same.
was like, why? And you know what he said? It's not about you.
Wow.
So I was like, that was what I said. I said, wow, okay, okay. And after that, I was all right with it. I was like, okay. And the thing
I'm
is,
still trying to figure that out. Hmm.
well, you bring things in from your past life as well. And that is something that I've noticed now as well, even, like some things that you don't know how
Hmm.
you brought it in with that ancient wisdom that you carry.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So,
I agree.
all right. So going forward, I think it's probably about time for us to land this plane. So, going forward, let the people know where they can find you, or if you have any last words, where they can find you. No, before that, I'm going to ask my question. So I have one question that I ask everybody on my show.
Hmm.
It is, if you could change anything in the world, what would it be and why?
That's a beautiful question.
Yeah, yeah.
If I could change anything in the world, wow, you kind of you Tammy, you kind of stumped me there because I have not meditated on that question, and I but if I could change anything in the world, anything in the world, there would be there would if I could change anything in the world, I would have a world where, or what I would change is that we would not see a world where children go a day without, having what it is that they need psychologically, emotionally, physically, economically, whatever the case may be, because children turn into adults.
Yes.
Those children are the ones who turn into adults. And if we could actually take back and go back into a space where every child is loved and every child felt like they have the tools and the resources that they needed to show up and be their best selves, then we would actually have adults who actually feel that they could also be their best selves as well. So that's what I would change. And that is why, because children turn into adult people eventually.
Well, they're our future.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think about it. I was like, did anybody not hear Whitney when she sang that song? I believe the children are our future.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
they are our future, and so we need to pour into them. And you're right about that. So, share with the people where is are the best places to connect with you, and if you have anything going on where you enrolling people or doing services or whatever, just share all that.
I will. So you guys can connect with me on my YouTube channel. It is at Aneicia Pitts. Also, my Instagrams, LinkedIn, Facebook fan base is also Aneicia Pitts. I do have some works coming in with my website, which will be aneiciaslight.com, and that's ANEICIASLIGHT.com, where you can get complimentary energy scans, 15-minute phone calls if you just need clarity call. Also, we're going to be doing metaphysical sprays where you can, buy one, get one free. And then we're also going to have some high vibrational energy parties to where we give affirmation cards. These are going to be completely free for you to be able to practice positive affirmation and getting back into alignment to your best self. So, yeah.
That is so awesome. I am so excited for everything that God is doing in your life. And I see so many great things for you. That's why I reached out to you. I was like, I see so
Thank
many
you.
great things. I mean, really, all of that sounds so good. And so, where do you see yourself in the next, say, 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I honestly see myself in a space to where, like, I am honestly helping people get back to who they always meant to be. They probably was just too afraid to find that person. I see myself creating a space where people can come and they can, express their vulnerability. They can show up for themselves. They can stand in the face of their own darkness and have the strength and the willpower to actually fight it. They can have someone to actually come to hold their hand, because I didn't have anybody to hold my hand when I was battling my darkness. I was doing it completely alone by myself. So they
Yes.
would have somebody here to honestly support them. And even if they fall, because we all F up sometimes, we all backslide, and you still have somebody here that is going to be rooting for you to get back up and try again, because we are spiritual warriors. But I see myself creating a brand, a lane to where people can honestly stand up in the face of adversity and really look at adversity and knock their adversity down and stand up in their truth, operate in righteousness, live their life how God has called them to be, however that may be for them.
That is so powerful. And I see you doing that because it's like, it's time and we need, all
Yeah.
hands on deck. It's all
It's
hands.
going to take a collective to raise the vibration. It's going to take a lot of us.
And every time I see one, I try to reach out because I know we need this. We need these collaborations. We need these conversations.
Hmm.
We need everybody praying and, however you pray, whatever you believe, but we need everybody praying and we need us holding hands energetically across the world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to take a collective to raise the vibration. But I just honestly, too, want to say to you, Tammy, thank you for even having me on your path, reaching out, having me on your podcast, connecting with me. It has been a great pleasure to even just, be in your energy and talk to you with the work that you're doing. So I do want to, give you your flowers for even allowing me to be here. And yeah, it's going to take a lot of us. So we got to lock arms. We got to lock arms because it's going to take a community to help raise the vibration of this planet.
It is. It's whoo, it's like we've been playing with this thing and now it's
Yeah,
go
for real.
time,
For
now,
real.
now we have the Super Bowl, all right, we in the playoffs. So it's go time. We gotta go. We got to get out here and do these things and do it without fear,
Yeah.
you know? And that's one of the things. But I'm so grateful that you joined me today. I'm so full because you are like the second young lady that I have interviewed today, and it is just that fills me up and lights me up because
Mhm.
because y'all are the future.
That is very sweet of you.
Girl, I'm for real. I'm like, y'all are the future, and y'all light me up because I'm excited that y'all are at the places where you are, at the ages where you are, you know,
Yeah.
because I wish I was, you know, but it was a different generation.
Yeah. We are always exactly where we need to be, though. That's one
Yeah.
thing about
And
spirit.
that's the thing, yeah. And you have to recognize that too. And because I'm personally not a person that believes in regret. Because
Yeah.
like people say, oh,
Absolutely.
this one lady told me, said, I wasted 21 years, with my ex-husband. I said, oh no. I said, no, honey, you didn't waste it.
Okay. You learned something from
You
that.
learned something. I said, and there was, things that didn't you have your kids with him? Yeah, so okay. So you got the kids? No,
Hmm.
not wasted. I said,
Absolutely not.
that's a perspective shift that we have to do, within ourselves. And then, just like I did, I told her straight up, we were in the Dollar Tree. I said, no, ma'am. No, ma'am, you did not waste it. You're
Yeah.
still here,
Okay.
you know?
Living and breathing and shaking and baking.
Right. I was like, you got your kids and all that stuff. I mean, come on now. I said, apparently God wanted those kids to be with you, with y'all as parents.
Hmm.
So yeah. So I mean, I think if we continue to be the light,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and it's it can be challenging, but I don't know about you, but I'm here for it.
I didn't put my big girl pants on. So, I'm ready to, ride this wave and honestly see where it takes me. And I'm excited to, be in a space to where the divine still has me here. I'm actually looking forward to the future. I'm quite excited to see what it's going to look like.
Me too, because it's if you look now, it's not a good look, but we look beyond that because we already know. Like I told somebody, I said, we know what this thing was already because we've already experienced it. I said, so now we
Mhm.
got to do is just keep on going and wait. I said, and also stop with the fear. I said, stop being afraid, stop fear mongering, stop it.
Please.
Stop.
Yes.
Let's not lead with that. So, but yeah, so I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful that you came, and I truly do appreciate you for coming on, your time, your energy. Um, yeah, I just got nothing but love. So we're going to land this plane. I want to thank everyone for joining us on Straight Out of Savannah. My guest here has been beautiful and amazing. She is beautiful inside and out. And so make sure that you follow her on her YouTube channel and wherever else you see her. Make sure you show her love. Make sure that you check out all the offerings and the things that she has because her details will be in the show notes and in the description on YouTube. So wherever you're listening or watching, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing it out to other like-minded people. We appreciate you and thank you so much for your time because you could have been watching anybody else, but you watched or you listened to us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.